everybody, welcome back. It is me, your old pal Orpheus, with another adventure here on Orpheus Plays. I love doing that. Anyway, hi, how you doing? It's another good day for murder here in the world of Blade and Sorcery. And as always, I have an amazing sort of thing to talk to you about, and that is, what is your most embarrassing moment? I've got some, and I'll share them with you, and we'll talk about that today on today's episode. So we are in the canyon here, a lovely map. I've always said looks kind of like if you were sitting in the audience somewhere, and this is like a theme park. You ever been to a theme park and they do one of those live action shows? That's kind of what this feels like. Anyway, let's see. Survival mode. We have 3 weapons that will be presented, or 2 weapons and a rake. Okay. And we kill everything that comes out those doors and arches and wherever else. Let's get things started. This giant, curved, nasty thing. Ugh. This looks crazy. Oh, and okay. When 2 barrels love each other very much, kids, this is how they make more barrels. I'll take care of that first, though I have to take care of the first traditional slow motion kill of the day. What the hell? And let's take care of that as well. What is going on with you? Well, we're off to a hell of a start today, and now that we got that weirdness out of the way, let's get to today's topic. As this guy, wow, it's just clumsy time today. Anyway, I just said that. I'm having a brain day, folks. You're just gonna have to deal with it. Anyway, so I have, in my course of time being on the air and traveling around the world and stuff, there's one question that I love to ask people, and it's always the same. And actually, I'll tell you about the radio thing that I've done a couple of times on stations that I've been on. So we'd have a contest, and it would be, what was your most embarrassing moment? Like, what was the most embarrassing, deep, dark, secret moment that you don't like to tell people? Or, at the very least, what was the most embarrassing moment in your entire life? And let me give you a moment to think about that. Let me play a little Jeopardy music here. Yeah. You getting there? You almost got it? All right. So, when it comes to your most embarrassing moment, you're probably thinking of something right now, one of 2 things. Well, maybe one of a few things, but one of you out there, statistically, not one of you, but like a ton of you, are going to have the same thing in common. And I'll get to that in a minute. But while you're thinking about that, Orpheus, what could that be? What could that one thing be that you'd be surprised, man? When I did the thing on the radio stations, it was allowed to be anonymous, right? So we would know who they were, but we would not reveal their identity to the listeners. So we during commercial breaks and stuff, or sometimes live on the air, we would take the phone calls, take down what the most embarrassing moment was, and then we kind of tally them up throughout the morning. And by the end of the morning, we'd have a nice roster, enough data to work with in order to take care of it. And the first time that I did this at a station, I was like, this was genuinely something fun, right? I was like, yeah, this will be a great idea. We were brainstorming, before going on the air, and like, I have this great idea about this, what's the most embarrassing moment? They're all like, yeah, that sounds cool. So, the first time I did, I had no idea what to expect whatsoever. No idea. It was just like, this should be really fun. So the phone calls start rolling in, and I'm noticing like every third caller or every other caller, it was like an absurdly high number of people were telling me the same thing. They're all telling me the same thing. And it was starting to really get to me because it's something that happened to me too. And it really ranks up there in like the top 5 most embarrassing moments in my life. Now, I can only think of probably 2 or 3 other ones besides this one. And so, what is it? What could it possibly be that so many people, and, statistically probably you, would rank as their most embarrassing moment? Well, here we go. Drum roll, please! And it is! Squeamish listeners, you might want to tune away for a second. It's poop in your pants. So, no, I'm not kidding. And a bunch of you right now are like, oh, that deep, dark, like embarrassing moment. Yes, folks, it is the one, the number one, no joke, it's the number one thing that most people will reveal as their most embarrassing moment of their lives. Now, the thing is, hopefully, when I got some stories out of people, most of them, to be fair, were people that were younger when it happened. All right? So they were somewhere in elementary school or maybe kindergarten or something like that. And, for me, yes, this is something that's happened to me. I was in first grade or something like that. And I had gotten in trouble during recess. No shocker there. And my punishment was that I had to sit in a certain area off to the side on the place where we had recess on the playground. And it was like a half an hour I was supposed to sit there before we went inside. Ooh, this looks... This is like Riddick. I'm going to kill you with my teacup. Anyway, so I had to sit there in this little alcove area. And I really had to go to the bathroom. I was sick at the time. Whew. And I kept waving to the teacher and going, can I go to the bathroom? She's like, there's no one to supervise you, so no, we can't have you just running off to the bathroom. You can wait. You can hold it, Did I scare her to death? What was that? Anyway, so she's like, no, you're not allowed to go to the bathroom. It's not something that we just let people do. And I was like, oh my gosh. So it started at a half an hour. I had to ask probably about 25 minutes. So 5 minutes in, I was like, seriously, I need to go to the bathroom. I asked her 20 minutes. She's like, no, it'll be another couple of minutes. Finally, I just couldn't. There's nothing you can do. When nature calls, sometimes you have no chance but to answer the phone, or no choice but to answer the phone, and that's what happened. And I, ended up crapping myself, and it was quite embarrassing. I know a lot of you probably have some sort of similar story where mom and dad came and got you and brought you a change of clothes and all that stuff. Maybe the nurse helped you or something, but that is literally the most embarrassing moment that most people count for their lives. Now, what are some other embarrassing ones that you've gone through? Now that we've gotten that uncomfortable one out of the way. Oops, I crapped my pants. Now that we've got that one out of the way, what are some of your other embarrassing moments? Because for me, I spent so much time on stage, right? Doing musicals and plays and stuff like that, that some of my most embarrassing moments in my entire life were on stage, okay? So I've got 3. Actually, yeah, now that I thought about it, there's a third one. Ooh, that's a good one. I'll tell you that one last. So my first one, I'll do these chronologically. My first one was when I was 8 years old. A little wee lad, just sitting there, 8 years old. I was in a opera company. I was in a theater group, an opera company. We did operas probably 3 times a year. We did those, and in between we were rehearsing and making costumes and sets and everything. And this was a major metropolitan opera company. And I was what was known at that point as a supernumerary, which is the fancy way in an opera to say, cast. I was just basically in the cast. I was singing and moving around, and I had different characters as I was playing and stuff. And so the one that we were doing was Anne Boleyn, or Anna Bolena. It's a little operatic story about King Henry and one of his wives named Anne Boleyn, and it's kind of just a general story about their lives and how things end up, where she gets her head chopped off. Okay, so I was playing the part of a king's page, which is like a servant kind of thing for the king, and I was dressed in the finest of fineries, with nice poofy shoulders on my they're called epaulets or whatever they're called. Anyway, I had those things on. Where are these people? Oh, there you are. Slow motion. And as I get there, so there was one scene where we had live horses on stage. And the horse had gotten upset during the last dress rehearsal because the king weighed a lot. Of course, he was playing King Henry VIII, right? So he's got to be a fat guy. And then his costume was another like 40 pounds of jewel-encrusted nonsense. And so the horse, when during the last dress rehearsal, the king sat on him and the horse sat down because it was too much weight. The horse is like, no, F this, man. I'm out of here, right? And so that could be considered a little dangerous, but they worked with it a few times and got the horse to chill out, at least a little, we thought. And so what happens is the king's supposed to get on the horse and then they all ride off stage. Well, my job as a page was to walk around with drinks, right? So I had a tray with drinks on it. And so I went around and served all the drinks during the scene, and then at the end of the scene I went around and gathered up all the empty goblets, right? So it comes for time for the king to get on the horse. And that horse looks at him and says, no way, dude, you're not getting on me. And he starts to back up. Well, who's right behind that horse but your old pal, Orpheus, 8 years old, and not really all that savvy to being on stage. And the horse bumped into me and took a giant crap on me, right on my shoulder. And I had to walk off stage. I kind of shuffled it off my shoulder and walk off stage. The entire first 20 rows of the auditorium of the theater were laughing. They were just rolling. I was so embarrassed. That was a crazy one. I did well with that, I guess. I don't know. So the second one, I was in a musical called Carnival. And it's the story of a girl that she runs away from home to a carnival, and there's a puppeteer who she falls in love with, and along the way, she becomes the assistant to a magician called Marco the Magnificent. Your old pal Orpheus was Marco the Magnificent. And there was one trick I was supposed to do on stage. It's the sword basket trick. You've probably seen it. Girl comes out on stage, gets into a wicker basket of some sort, and you drive swords through it in different directions. Then you step into the basket to show she's not there. You do a little flourish. Then you step out of the basket, pull out the swords, and the woman pops back out of the basket, right? Cool trick. I had learned it. We got a prop to do it. And what happens is she kind of curls herself around the outside. It's a wider basket than it looks. And so she does that. And so it goes for performance time. We'd practiced it a dozen times, got to the performance, and as I stepped out of the basket at the end of the trick, I lost my footing and fell off of the platform sideways. Did a tumble over, ass over tea kettle. Seriously, I broke my ankle. And again, the entire and the trick went flying this way. The basket flipped over. The girl inside was freaking out because she had just done a barrel roll on this damn thing, right? So the entire crowd just lost it. Of course, it's high school students and football players and stuff, so they're all laughing and just rolling. I got shit for that months after that. But that was, in terms of, I was an accomplished theater person at that point. I'd been in a lot more operas and plays and musicals. And so I got into this one. This horrible thing happened. So, let's get to the most embarrassing moment. Besides, it's not the whole poop in your pants thing. We're done with that. So let me get to the most embarrassing moment that I've probably ever had in my entire life. And this is a doozy right here. I was playing Conrad Birdie in Bye Bye Birdie, a musical that's supposed to be about Elvis going off to war when he got drafted. Except they changed Elvis out with a guy named Conrad Birdie, just as cocky, just as, talented and all that stuff. And of course, your old pal Orpheus was Conrad Birdie in the musical Bye Bye Birdie. And there's a scene where after I do a big performance for this small town, it's part of a marketing campaign. Go look up the musical's plot. I'm not going to do it here. So I stay at this small town, family that won a sweepstakes to have me stay with them and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so the scene goes, it's supposed to be the next morning. They've set up a special tray for food for me. It's at the bottom of a flight of steps. Now, the way that we had our set was steps that went across the top of the set from off stage, and then a flight of steps that came down, and then the tray right there in front of it. And then we had a little refrigerator off to the side. So my thing was to come down the steps, come off stage, walk on this raised platform like it's the hallway, right? Or at least the top banister. Where's this person again? What is happening? And so I'm supposed to walk down the steps, look at this nice breakfast that they've made for me, kind of shrug my shoulders and go, nah. I go over to the refrigerator, grab a beer, I crack a beer, I chug it, and then I just go, call me for lunch, and then go back upstairs and off stage. Well, so I was supposed to wear my boxers and what's known as a smoking jacket. It's a silk bathrobe that only comes down to your mid-waist or a little bit past your waist. Oh, man. And I had gold boots that were the signature for my character. And so I come walking across stage, boxers, gold boots, a silk smoking jacket, nothing else. Just absolutely nothing else. So I normally am not a person that wore boxers. I still am not. I just don't like boxers. Boxer briefs, cool, and some of that new material that's out, cool. All right, I can deal with that. But back then, I did not wear boxers. I still don't really today. So I go and I do my scene. And it was senior citizen day. And to make things worse, the middle schoolers were there. Because the first performance that we did was for middle schoolers, the school itself, and then a bunch of senior citizens were bussed in from local retirement homes and stuff. You guys are gonna lose it. You're gonna lose it when you hear what happened. So I come out on stage, I do my little walk by, right? And immediately as I step on stage, everyone starts laughing. So I'm like, oh, this is really, the vibe is all here. I must have done really well in the last scene, and this just shows how funny it is. And, so I'm walking all confidently, my arms swinging. I'm trying to channel Elvis as best I can, kind of just walking along, And I get to the stairs, and I walk to the stairs. I walk straight down, center stage on 10 steps, real slow and just kind of swaggering down the steps, moving my hips. And the crowd is losing their mind. They are cheering a little bit. So, some of the high schoolers are cheering a little bit. People are just laughing overall. And I mean, it's like the entire place is rolling. And I'm starting to go, this isn't really that funny. I haven't done the funny thing yet. So I get to the tray, I look at it, I kind of shrug, and I go off to the side, I grab a beer, I turn, to the refrigerator and grab the beer. As soon as I turn around, again, everyone starts rolling. And I'm like, what the hell is going on at this point, right? So I go and I chug the beer, I go back and I crush the beer against my head and I go, hey, call me for lunch, right? I go back up the stairs, walk back across the thing, and walk off stage. Immediately, the stage manager is standing there. And she is just, this is another high schooler, so she's cracking up. She's just losing it. She's in tears. She can hardly talk to me because she's just like, right? And I'm like, did it go well? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, did it? What do you mean? Yeah. She says, Orpheus, look down. And I look down. And my junk was hanging out of my boxers. They had been hanging out of my boxers from the moment that I walked on stage. The little hip jiggles I was doing the whole time were, kind of doing that whole thing, right? So I walked, literally down center stage a bunch of steps with just kind of hanging out, right? And that's why everyone was just rolling. And then I started to laugh a little bit, but then I started to realize what happened. That there were middle schoolers and retired senior citizens from retirement homes out in the audience. So I flashed my junk to like 3 generations of people at once. From that performance on, the one after that on, through like the next 10 we had to do, I had sewn those boxers shut. And I mean, like, absolutely no slit in the front whatsoever. It was sewn shut. And it never happened again. So that's my my most embarrassing moment in my life, and it was a doozy, I'll tell you that. So what's your most embarrassing moment? Share it in the comments below. I would love to hear some of these. And don't worry, if you've had that most common one that everybody's had, the whole pooping your parents thing, don't worry, you don't have to leave that. Leave your second most embarrassing one and just call it your first one, your most embarrassing one, because we all know your secret. Anyway, we'll see you in the next one. Be good, do good, treat yourself well, because you, my friend, deserve it. See you next time on Orpheus Plays. Bye!